If I asked you right now, what's one thing on your bucket list that you could realistically do today that you've been putting off? What would you say? For me, it would have to be filming a sketchbook tour video. I've always wanted to go back and look at and react to my old art and make a video of it, and I just never got around to it. So since the new year is almost upon us and my first sketchbook dates back to 2015, almost 10 years ago, I figured it'd be a nice time to take a trip down memory lane. So we're gonna look through some of these sketchbooks and, well, see how I've improved. Let's create. I'm at a different angles. Hold up, I gotta get this right. Let's create some chaos. All right, so let's get started. First up, we got this guy here. As you can see already, the cover is designed because I repurposed this sketchbook once I was done with it for the intro to a video for an art contest that I did on my old channel. But as we open it, as I mentioned, this is going from 2015 to around 2017. Unfortunately, these are retroactively planned. I don't have the exact dates. But our first drawing is not the first ever character, but first character I drew in media that I could find. It wasn't even a character. It was just basically an avatar for me. It's redesigning me as a superhero, except I didn't give myself any superhero clothing. It's just like, yeah, this guy can control fire. It's nothing to indicate that. Just take my word on it. Trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. He's got he's fire. My goodness, this was... Look at those hands. Jeez. All right, moving on. And now the second character is one that has stuck with me for years. Ignore the backwards feet and lack of wrist. I didn't know how to draw anatomy. But Machnetz's power is when he broke a bone, a metal casing would appear wherever that bone was. So if he broke a finger, his finger would be coated in metal. And if it was an arm, yada, yada, yada. And he could use that metal casing as offensive and defensive attacks. I repurposed this power for a character later on, though I'm not sure if they're actually within the sketchbooks. But yeah, that is a character who, design-wise, is nothing special, but whose power I still really love. Another character we got here, we got Rock Slide, which is just an Indiana Jones character with rock arms. It was really covering a whole bunch of different tropes. We got our adventurer here, we got our magic person here, our swordsman here. And these two were an attempt at making brothers based on similar last names that also work for what they do. But I put their last names in the middle of their names, so it didn't work. And you can see that I didn't know how to really render or outline magic, so this is the shape of a fish with some swirls going around it. Ignore this. You're going to see a lot of these. Back in elementary school in math class, we had little riddles to start class off with. And I tried to work some of them out in this sketchbook. So there's going to be a lot of non-drawing things within here. But focus away from that and focus on this blatant Scorpion ripoff from Mortal Kombat. Scorpion was my favorite character, and I really loved the rope dart idea, and so I adopted it into my own character, thinking like, oh, what's a different type of character that the ropes would make sense for? Vipers, obviously, and he didn't really use them as an attack. He used them more as a way to swing around Spider-Man style. So this is just a ripoff of Spider-Man and Scorpion, but I think that's justified because both of them are really cool heroes. Here's another character that definitely cost me at least a full pen cartridge. And the only reason I didn't do the shoes is because they would have gotten lost in the silhouette. For every character that I did design in this sketchbook, I made alternate costumes for them because Injustice was one of my favorite games. And that entire game has the whole multiple dimensions. So it's like every character has two main costumes. But I'm like, I love doing that. But the alternative costume, the alternative world it came from was called the Dimension. It was stupid, and it was just a way for me to be edgy and be like, oh, all the bad characters are good and all the good characters are bad. They're from the Dimension. Zap could create portals, And I love how he's walking like his arms are so wide, but he's got literal sticks for arms. These arms came out really good, all things considered. And then these ones, they look like the McDonald's M. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm loving it. Combo Craft. He was inspired off of Dead Rising 3, where you could combine the weapons to make these really crazy ones. And also, his head is like a mile wide. Could you tell 2015 KyngPin did not understand or possibly even know what anatomy was? Not even sure what this is. This is apparently a Twinkie with butterfly wings, which I believe is the Smashing Pumpkins song. I had no regard for conserving pen ink. What, like, these silhouettes are insane. I had to go through a whole pen just doing this, because I can see different strokes and stuff. Oof, yikes. Oh, and here we go. So, one of my favorite things about this sketchbook is I drew these character battles. I made sure to give every one of my characters distinctive facial features. So when I simplified them down into stick figures, you can easily discern which each character is. We got regular Zap and alternate Machnet, alternate Zap, Trocod, I believe. Basically all the characters in the first dimension were heroes and everyone from the dimension were villains. And so I would constantly have them fighting. There was no evil in the base dimension, apparently. Because one of the things back then was I loved all my characters. So I didn't want to make any of them villains. And so I'm just like, oh, he's a hero and he's a hero. That's a good guy. He's a hero. Going back now, I would totally make some of these people villains because after having played some in theater, being the villain could be a lot of fun. And then I never finished doing these because there were just so many characters. But I made character sheets for all my characters, regular and dimensions. So I would list the powers, how they looked in stick figure form, and then little descriptions about what their outfits entailed. Because there's, as you can see, there's no color in any of this sketchbook. Yep, as we continue going more and more, got up to Sorcerer, and then I did another battle. This one looks like it's taking place on a desktop. It really is. Chrome, Doctor Who pictures, iReader Pro, I don't know what that's a reference to. Internet Explorer was probably outdated then. Oh, this character. Okay, so for context, first off, I was doing the stupid names back then. Max Imum Flail. The Maximum Flail was a claim to fame I had when I was younger. One day I just had a thought. I'm like, dancing is randomly just flailing your arms and limbs about if you really think about it. And so I did it as an example, and it immediately caught on. And all my friends were like, that's the most ridiculous thing you've ever done. Do it again. And so I made this character where literally his only ability is flailing his arms around wildly. King Peps is when I started going by KyngPin, almost. And this was another persona of mine. That crown is something else. Another battle. Motorman. This one isn't even a character design. This is, if you've ever played the game Hill Climb Racing, this is just the character of Hill Climb Racing. There's nothing unique about this. I picked up the character design exactly what it was. And like, this is my character now. No one can take that. This is mine. And this is because we're now getting later into the book. So I believe we're in high school now. Don't judge me. I started my art career very late. But we're in high school now, and we were all given computers to take notes on. But everyone in my classes just played either Tetris, Solitaire, or Hill Climb Racing when we should have been paying attention. And so in an effort of character design, that I took the character and made him my own. Now, on the other hand, Frostbite is one of my favorite characters to date. It is a robot with frost powers, hence Frostbite, like storage. And I actually wound up using him in later projects once I got into university. and he's definitely going to be on the channel at some point because he's cool, I like him, and he deserves a spot in the Hall of Fame of KyngPin characters. And here we got Sir Celsius, a fire and ice hero based on a character I made in Saints Row 4. And here, this is when I started drawing from reference. These two are from Zootopia. And I didn't do any construction or anything. My process was I would do the outline of what the character, I'm like, okay, so it comes down and then moves into the head and get the snout here and then moves into the shoulder. And then I would add all the details like the eyes and the snout here afterwards. And for the most part, they came out pretty good, but I don't recommend learning to draw that way. The fur rendering is actually really good here. I really like it. This was my attempt at drawing an actual person. It's a thick neck and lopsided eyes. It did not work. Yep, and then I started drawing more from reference. Cosmo from Fairly Odd Parents. Cassidy from Overwatch, which for the most part is good, except the nose. I don't know what happened there. And the hat's lopsided. Okay, admittedly, this isn't the greatest one. This one, however, is very detailed and I like a lot. Look how much detail is on that gun. The perspective's a little off, but overall, this looks really good. And then we have Roadhog, who is probably the most accurate out of all of them. And then we forgot to give Junkrat a shoulder. Then I started designing my own Overwatch skin. So we got Chef Roadhog with a soup gun, a fork and stuff. We had bowlers and Yada who would throw bowling balls at people, because that's not messed up. And then I started doing my own Overwatch heroes from scratch. This is my little goblin with a buzzsaw launcher called Buzz. And I drew out his design, worked out his abilities, and even drew out what his main legendary costumes would be. And then I tried inking it and it bled through, so I stopped that immediately. Speed Demon Junkrat, this one might be one of my favorites. Look at that gun. That turned out so good. The tire's a little tire's actually flat. The tire itself is a flat tire. I don't know if that was intentional or not. For the most part, that is the end of this book. A lot of this is just school notes, guitar stuff, and coming up with YouTube video ideas when I started my first channel. And then, yeah, that would put us at the end of this book. Though there are some papers in the back here. But the ones I really want to show off are these. I made sort of like character rosters for my characters, so they all got their little headshots like they were a character selection in a fighting game. Some of these heads are huge. I really want to go back and redesign some of these characters because I really like them. All right, so that does it for our first book, and I promise not to take as long with this second book. But that's only because there's like 10 pages filled out here. So as you can see, we're starting in 2018, but like our first one, we again have a drawing of K-Peps, a lot improved from the first time. So I'll overlay 2015's version here, and this one's 2018's version. The hands actually look really good this time, and I think I went away with his pyrokinesis and did more just generic magical energy. And this was an inside joke me and my friends had for a superhero called Captain Communism. I forget exactly what his powers were. I think it was like enhanced speed and strength and all that. But when more people were within his general vicinity up to a certain range, his powers would inadvertently be spread evenly among everyone around him. So while everybody would have been powered up, he himself would have been weaker because he would be sharing his finite supply of powers with his surrounding area. So the less people around, the stronger him as an individual was. Honestly, I don't think that's exactly what communism is, but 5-6 years ago, that was my understanding of it. And then here we got some designs for band logos or just logos in general. You can see me designing my own and then designing a band called Luana. You'll see that I've become really obsessed with drawing the Luana logo and just trying and, yep, there it is again, trying to make it look perfect. I still like it. I still think it's a cool logo. Oh, here we go. I think this is the first rendition of color. Well, other than this. But this is our first rendition of color in a sketchbook. It's got a little messed up looking rat and a really cool looking logo. And I don't know if you can see it bleeding through, but there it is. Luana! And these were me trying to design some cool band names. Silent Light or Silent Sleight, whatever it is. And then Sleight of Heart, which was a reference to Sleight of Hand. Both pretty cool logos. And then, overall, this is a completely empty sketchbook. So that can get right out of here. Moving on to sketchbook number 3. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Third sketchbook. This one starting in 2019, literally the first of the year, and moving on to early 2020. So this is around the time I either got regular Spotify or Spotify Premium and started making custom playlist covers. This one is for a playlist for songs I knew all the words to and would often sing in the car. I called it karaoke. I don't entirely remember the inspiration behind this one. I think it was me being mad at the state of YouTube, if I only knew where it would be going from there. And so, like, it's the person promoting the product that gets all the fame and money, and the person who made it gets nothing. This was really stupid, but I really wanted to move into more scenic, more actualized pieces, maybe with a message. That's not for me. I'm thinking now I'm gonna stick to character design. Here was a sketch for a Photoshop project I wanted to do, which you can barely see because I filled up this entire page with graphite and it bled through. I was trying out some typography art and I had dread and I wanted to have this vignette closing in around it to show like how it could be suffocating. And all that happened was it bled out onto the previous page, which is so good, meaning how like negative emotions can like unintentionally bleed out into things you weren't expecting and harm things that are seemingly uninvolved. This is what English teachers are like when they're reading a book from 400 years ago. It's like the author clearly meant this deeply symbolic thing. No, I just didn't recognize how much graphite can rub off. This was a very 80s casino retro in style piece that I did in Photoshop. It's in some of my older videos. I don't know if there's any on this channel, but on my first channel, I used this as a green screen background because I really loved it. And on this page is me getting ready to go to college. And what I did was I was gonna make a poster of all my interests split up into 3s and then hang it on my wall. So there was gonna be guitar, which I probably played a collective of 15 minutes at that point. Photoshop and art, which was gonna have all my pieces cascading in the background. And then stand-up comedy, which I did once. Luckily, my parents talked me out of putting up a poster of me on my college dorm room walls. And they were right for that one. That could have been really bad. Oh, and here's one of my favorite pieces. I took all the Loud House main characters, used their like character sheet designs, silhouetted them out, and then added their hobbies inside of the silhouette. I'll throw up some pictures as I'm talking about it because it's one of my, I still really like the design. I wonder if I can make money off of those. There it is again, more the Luana logo. I then put the Luana logo into that 80s casino-inspired design from before. And then I came up with another band called Andover, which I believe is an actual band or something similar to this. I remember figuring out that this name was actually taken already, but I still love the logo and name I did for it. There it is again, more Luana, more Andover. Some people draw their original characters over and over again. I drew logos over and over again. And then Andover's first album was going to be album titled Album. As I flip through these, if you see these Post-it notes, this was when I worked at a retail job and I was on the cashier and we had a particularly dead day during the week. So there was a stack of Post-it notes and a pen next to me. And so I just randomly drew a bunch of different things on just the company sticky notes. Yeah, we got receipt paper here, sticky notes of just random doodles to make the monogamous. No, not monogamous. It's not. Yeah, my work shift only married one person. The monotonous hours of that job pass by. And here's what replaced that earlier poster of my face. I designed a rock-on kind of thing, and then the picture was going to be made up of all my favorite albums as a mosaic. And you can see me here working on how I would want it to look. I thought about adding in some sound levels, going into the red, but I did ultimately decide on this basic one. We're back to character design finally, and this was our little dorm room mascot for the holidays. Spooky Steven, who is toilet paper, or tissues, I should say, wrapped around a crumbled up piece of printer paper. And when the holidays came around, we put him on top of a tree. Spooky Steven is a mascot year-round. He applies to every holiday. He definitely got thrown out. And then, here we go. When I went into college, this is around the time I was getting into Ice Nine Kills, one of my favorite bands. And because of that, I went into college being this really dark and horror-obsessed person, which really wasn't me. I liked more being the happy comedic guy. While I still enjoy horror, I made it my entire personality. I did not like that. For Halloween, I had this idea to combine a whole bunch of horror icons into a Halloween costume. And I even went to a Halloween contest at my university with this idea. And when I got up to the stage, the guy asked me, "What costume are you?" And I said, I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was somewhere along the lines of, "I'm Jason Freddy Voorhees, the undead clown who came out every 27 years," or whatever. I was trying to combine as much of the names as I possibly could into the costume name. And the guy literally just said, "Yeah, I'm not saying that. We got Jason Voorhees here." I'm like, okay, well, I can't just stand here. I gotta walk the runway now. If you've ever seen the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie, it's exactly like the scene when he's wrestling and the announcer guy's like, "What's your name, kid?" And Tobey Maguire's like, "It's the human spider." And he's like, "That's stupid. Spider-Man!" And Tobey Maguire's just like, "That's not my name. I'm not going out there. You didn't call me by my name." It's exactly what happened, except I actually walked the runway and didn't get beat up by Macho Man Randy Savage. This is the later dubbed /up, the costume I've been rehashing for years now, and if you watch Boss Level, you'll know this is what I wore for a Halloween episode. More sketches of it. I was just trying to figure a way how to like stitch clothing together so I can get more in there. So you have Georgie's coat mixed with Michael Myers' little jumpsuit, the Scream mask stitched together with the Jason and Hannibal Lecter mask. I really wanted to get as many as I could, but this, like, I did not have these type of skills. Oh, more character design. Here we go. We have Vampiro, a fire-wielding vampire. His neck is absolutely large, but other than that, I really like the design. And now here we're into me designing my own My Hero characters. This was Hypno, and instead of quirks, they were called specialties. But hers was Hypnosis. Using pulsing waves, she can link her targets, fall into a highly susceptible, mindless state. And this is going to be her with her mask off, very anime-inspired hair. Tried to do a very dynamic action pose, which for the most part looks cool until we get to the lower waist area. I did not know how that was supposed to bend. But another character that I would love to redraw. And then that pretty much does it for this sketchbook. Awesome. All right, so moving on. Now on... Hold up there, Space Cowboy. So, after recording, re-recording, 2 full days of editing, and much deliberation, I've determined that I physically cannot cut this video down into a concise 30 or 40 minutes. So, against my better judgment, this will mark the end of part 1 of this sketchbook tour. Apparently, going through 10 years worth of artwork is a lot more than I expected. But don't worry, because part 2 will be coming out
December 30th
at 4:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Standard video time. But although there's more to this video, that's unfortunately all I got for you today. If you like this portion of the video, feel free to hit the like and subscribe button so you can be notified when part 2 comes out. My name is KyngPin, and I will see all of you back here
in 2 weeks.
Take care, everyone.